Hi there, Ron here, Variable Play, and welcome to Code Design. Today I'll be sharing you because I've been playing around with Tabletop Simulator a little bit, and I have learned how to code in it a little, and hopefully to the ones who will be watching and the ones who are watching later on, that this helps you with your design uh, um, design experimentation. So, where did my code? Let me open up VS Code first. If you guys can tell me if you can hear me fine, that'll be great. All right. So hang on a little bit. Okay. So here we are in Tabletop Simulator. And another tool I will be using is VS Code. So VS Code is from Microsoft, but I'm in a Mac right now, so it's in every platform. And what's cool about it is it has tools to help you code a little bit better. And let me show what I mean. And you press Control Shift P and Tabletop Simulator. You can see here I've already installed it, a plugin. And this plugin, because I initially just tried it as is, and it's not that fun. So once you have this loaded, one thing that I'd like to do is to see if I can synchronize. All right, there you go. So it's able to see that I have a tabletop simulator application running, and I have some of the global scripts already that we can edit. And because my eyesight is really bad, I, for the life of me, cannot see the code here. Let me show you what I mean. So let's maybe add an object. Let's just add a small pebble somewhere, and to if I go to the scripting of this, just let me just show you what um, scripting editor looks like. Oh, would it just always load here? Ah, coolness. So I guess it doesn't show up there anymore. All right. Okay. So let me just check on the stream. Can you guys hear me? Okay. You guys, I guess you guys can hear me fine because nobody's complaining. So let's get on with it. If you have questions of like how I did that, so it basically you install the plugin and then press Control Shift L. It will load the scripts on an active tabletop simulator game. So okay, I have beforehand prepared my files. Let me show you what my files look like. So I have three pages of cards, and the way Tabletop Simulator works is it has a template of 7 or 10 by 7. So 10 component, 10 units and 7 units down. 10 units to the right, 7 units down. But you always leave this last one blank. For some reason, Tabletop Simulator needs it as a card back, even if you can supply a card back. So I have prepared 3 pages of that. The game that I am designing. Oh, don't mind the pandemic. It's not pandemic. It's a epidemic. Same thing with it. It's called Epidemic, the card game. Not related to unrelated to pandemic whatsoever. Uh, okay. All right. So we have the files. We're gonna import the files now in Tabletop Simulator. So to import, we go to Objects, Components, Cards, and then Custom Deck. So I'm gonna drop a custom deck probably there. And when you right click away, oh, number one rule, working with Tabletop Simulator. If you're in a Mac, get a mouse. It will be so much simpler, especially if you're just learning how to do it. So we're going to import our um, cards. You actually, if you're just testing it, you want to do local. But the thing is, you'll have to do it all over again if you want to be able to share it with your friends when you actually want to play the game with your friends. So might as well from the beginning already upload it, okay? Because you're gonna do it anyway. So let's upload that. So it's gonna send it to your Steam account's cloud. It does take a while. So that's a problem with live because most of the tutorials I've seen, they just zoom through this. Oh my gosh, it's so small. It's useless. What? Okay, there you go, there you go. So it was able to upload it. We're not gonna. I don't need unique backs. I do have a back that I can use. We want to push that to the cloud as well. And as I have mentioned, it's 10 by 7. And remember what I said earlier when I showed you the preview, it's not 70. If it's 10 by 7, should have been 70. It's going to be 69 cards. That's how Tabletop Cinema. But it allows it to go all the way to 70. I don't know why. But if you do that, it has a quirk on the end. I don't get it. So I just follow whatever this works. So 69, import, and there you go. Pops in there. And we're gonna do it again because we have a couple more decks to work with. So page 2, cloud. Oop. Oh, hang on. I made a mistake. Should have been where did there custom deck. There you go. Page 2, cloud. Uh, the card back is the same. I should have copied the card back. Oh well, I'm gonna copy it now after. And 69. So and again, copy that. Import. And last, oops, objects, components, cards, custom deck, upload page 3, push it to the cloud. guess I can set the back. So you can paste like that if you have your L ready for your cards. The third one though is not 69 cards. So it's 10 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 60 cards. So I have to reduce this down to 60 cards. All right. Import. Okay. There we go. So let me just have that load. So this is my deck now. I actually like playing Tabletop Simulator like this, just because uh, it just makes more sense for me for some reason. All right. So we just need one more, if I'm not mistaken, which is the my player aid. Um, Cards. We just need one card, and so its face is going to be the HQ. For you want to push that to the cloud, and we're just gonna set it with the same back import. All right. So now, so you may notice it's quite small, and even if technically inside I've created it that fairly, it's a decent size. I mean, it's for ready for print. So you can increase the size by scaling up, and that's basically the plus sign. So we're gonna try to do that. Plus, maybe like that. Yeah, I think I think it'll suffice. You can still zoom in anyway. It's a little. I can zoom in a little bit better using the trackpad, because for some reason it kind of jumps numbers in. All right, cool. So okay, so now um, my game is a card game, so it's straightforward. I um, will set it up for 5 players. So I'm gonna clone this. Just set it up for 4. And I realized I like working with the grid, even if it's the smallest type. You want to snap to the lines. There we go. And I want to show the grid. So now it it just works a little bit better. I don't like the weird fluidity of working straight with. All right, cool. So we're gonna start a little bit on the coding. Let me just sort of give you an orientation about the game. Um, it's a multi-use card game. Just check our theme. And basically, it's a multi-use card game where um, you have a hand of cards. Oops, you have a hand of cards, and you play them to the left or right of the market row, and that means that you're activating either the left or the right icon of your card. And then, since basically you'll see it as 6 cards, right? So technically, it's like it will look like that once you're done playing. Then you take a card from the opposite side of that, and then you also do the icon in that action. So, for example, this red um, symbol over there, it's like hiring, and then the other one is um, operating or building construction. So Mechanically, that's how it works. It's a cooperative game. You guys are trying to save the city from an epidemic, and you are playing as government or um, social worker, advocates, or government officials, and you're trying to save your district, and as well as also help others save the district. So that's kind of how the game works. So I'm just laying things out so you'll have an idea of like this is my discard on the left, my deck, the row in essence. I'll explain why I have six cards at the moment, seven cards at the moment, because I'll be creating some scripting zones that will help us set up the game better. Okay, so why did I put a a pebble? A pebble. So the reason why I have a pebble there is because in Tabletop Simulator that you put buttons on things. So we're gonna be putting buttons on those things, and but before we do that, since now we're kind of happy with how it looks and generally how things are laid out, the key thing about tabletop simulator coding is you can think of it like there's two environments. You have the tabletop environment and then a coding or scripting environment. They're not exactly related, and one can sort of mess up the other if you don't have the right sort of best practice of working. So number one rule, if you want to start coding or you think you're going to be coding and you have some changes on your tabletop physical space, you have to save that first, because your coding space only remembers the last save, and it will reset to that. It will jump to that and save the code. And just, it will be horrendous. So just remember, so epidemic, the card game B1. All right, let's save that. We're gonna put it short. Save that. Did it save? It's so small, it's annoying. You must supply a custom image. What? I guess I saved it. Did I save it? No. What? I guess that's this one. So let me just delete. Let's do that again. Hang on. Maybe it's, I have to do it straight with that. Okay, got it. So it was this that I needed to. Epidemic card game V1. All right, save. Okay, there we go. So also, sometimes it's a lot easier if you can reload. So go ahead, and if you see your game, note that, and that's like the better sort of state of it. Then we can start coding. All right. So when we, I'm guessing it always goes here. So I think I gotta stop the. Let me put up the components first because it seems to be okay. There you go. So we're gonna put the component layouts first before we use Visual Studio Code, just because it's sort of messing up, like opening up this screen. Um, so I think That's the case. Yeah, it's easier once things are in place. So I think the workflow will be you sort of set things up first and then use Visual Studio Code to pull, and then that's where you do the heavy coding. So first in on the UI, we have this one, and you can add. So you know me already. I'm gonna have to discard file. Should I all got that? Oh, all right. This one we're gonna name as pick file. Hang on, it shouldn't be file. These are technically discard button holder. There you go. This is also gonna be a deck button holder. And the last one is a sort button holder. All right. The reason why I did that is so it can, when we open up the, you can see it a little bit better that it has a little bit of naming convention in it. Okay. So now we're going to put up a button. And so for the button, we're going to type. It is so small. I can barely see what I'm typing. So we're going to type, oh my gosh, button. And we'll have a few properties. I'm gonna code blind with. So if you're seeing me type errors, pardon me, as I cannot for the life of me see the text. It is so small. Height of 100, font size of 72, offset XY. So you think of it as you have the pebble, and the button's gonna show on top of it at 0, 0. So we want to move it down. So 0 space and then maybe -80. Um, and then we know that we want to trigger a function. So we're going to say reset discard. Okay. And then close that. The text is actually reset, be like rebuild or something. And then button. Let me just check what I wrote because I can't see crap. There we go. Alrighty. So as I mentioned, if you save this now, you can see it. It loaded, like it refreshed things. So now we have a nice little button over there. Okay. So we're gonna do the same thing for our other code. So now you can see that it has a UI component as well for. Uh, oh, and there you go. As I've mentioned, I did not save the game when I placed the names. So they're all named Go buttons again. See, I'm not even following what I'm preaching. So let me do that. Fine. Let's just say we build button, and then this is gonna be library button, and Market button. Hmm, it's not really a market. Actions button. Action row. There you go. Save run. Save. So how do we know which one? So you can see the layout, and so you're gonna trigger an override. That now is safe. So when we go into scripting and hit save and play, they are still library button. All right, there we go. There we go. So you button is here for rebuild, and now actually it's pretty much the same code for this, but we just need it as, so this is for, hang on, library. Okay, so for the library, we're basically, I want to ask my, like, we start the game. Um, so we're gonna call it we start, save and play. There's our button, and we're gonna add another scripting for this one. So for the action row, it's pretty much the same, except now we're gonna sort actions, and we're just gonna label this as sort. Alrighty, cool, cool, cool. So now we have that. I'm guessing I'll have code for each one. Perfect. Now, now is the time we open up. Um, almost. Before we do that, so with Tabletop Simulator, the magic sauce or the key ingredient is this thing they call scripting zones, and you'll see a lot of tutorials in the internet about Tabletop Simulator. Well, they'll just go, "Oh, you can right click on the I on the library, and you can see the ID, and that's how you use to refer to it." That's kind of true, except if you finish all of the cards in the library code, that GUID disappears. It's not, and when you reshuffle, make a new pile, it has a totally new ID, not the same. So it's like that's a pretty useless way to teach it, because it's like a sure bug. So anyway, so I'm gonna start with, I'm gonna. That's why I laid it out like this, is because these are pretty much my areas of concern already. So we're gonna set up some scripting zones right away. And I'm really sorry if I'm just squinting on the screen, because I kid you not, for the life of me, I cannot see. It is so small. And don't worry if it's not too perfect. It's fine. It will snap to those grids anyway. So I'm making zones here so that we can eventually refer to those, the cards that are in those zones, or the decks that are in those zones. Make sense? So now we're not using um, the physical IDs of those cards. We're going to be using the IDs of the zones. Again, as I mentioned, since we changed the physical space, we got to save that first. So where is our, this one? Hit override. Boom. Okay. So now we can probably start coding. So first things first is, one of the best practices that I've learned is, so we're gonna open up VS Code, and Control Shift L. Was it? Isn't it Control Shift L? Hang on. Let me see if I can. Did I uninstall the extension? Maybe I did. Tabletop Simulator. I didn't uninstall it. Maybe I need to reopen code. Quitting, open code, and L. Isn't it Control Shift L? You want to do it now? Ah, so weird. Maybe I need to reinstall it. Just because I really am gonna have a hard time coding. Tabletop. Uninstall. Reload required. And we're gonna search that again. Tabletop. All right. Control Alt S. Control. Okay, gotcha, gotcha. I'm pressing the wrong keys. That's why. So it's Control Alt L so that I can get the scripts and I can wear my glasses again. Okay, here we go. All right. So first things first is you can leave these. That's fine. I think they're kind of useful anyway eventually. Um, but we're gonna set up some variables globally um, so that we can use them later on. So remember that we created zones. So the zones they do have an ID. When you click on the scripting zones, that's that sort of like pin looking thing, and then the rightmost. When you click on it, it's gonna copy the GUID of that. So we're gonna copy. This is our discard zone. So we're gonna add the discard zone equals, and then the ID. And if I'm not mistaken, if I save here, I guess it works. How do I test that? I guess I have to quit it. So I have to save that and then Control Alt S just to be sure. I wonder if we can see that it saves. Ah, there you go. See? 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 It works. Ah, it works. Okay. Next is we're gonna have the library zone and get the GUID of that. So that one's not gonna change. And now we have these. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'll explain why it's 7. It's really just 5 cards actually at the time. But I needed to be able to support sort of like the left and right position where you're going to drop your cards. Um, so we're going to now use, I don't know exactly what it's called in Lua. The language of Tabletop Simulator is Lua. Uh, so I call this arrays in JS, in JavaScript. In Python, this is sort of like a set, um, but it's using curly braces, but it's functioning like an array. And the big shocker, so you guys who can code or are familiar with coding, uh, index starts at 1. So it's like a Microsoft style of coding, not 0. All right, so we have 7 zones. So copy this first, add that in, and maybe Hang on. Let me just copy this over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That way we have all of those and we're just pasting in the middle. So much faster. Alrighty. Oops, so I'm just saving that. I should be control of this. Okay, perfect. So we now have a global um, sort of references. The reason why you do this is because sometimes you're gonna realize, like, well, from what happened to me, oh, I need to move the zones. Guess what? Zones are immovable. You can only delete them. So you're gonna have to recreate the zone and then go back to your code. And if you didn't make it as a global reference, you'll have to go through each of your code where you used it and update it there. Well, it's a little bit easier in Tabletop Simulator, but if it's in VS Code, but if it's in Tabletop Simulator, forget about it. So, I guess let's go straight to something that's kind of fun, and let's sort of make the code for starting up the game, right? So we're gonna go for the library button. Library button is our reset code. I should have named it as a reset. That's fine. Okay, so we're gonna make some. We're gonna pull from the global values. So might as well. It's kind of. Um, oh, I need one more thing. Oh no. Okay. So hang on. We'll do that later. This is fine. Um, so we're just gonna copy this so it's a little bit quick. Um, but we actually are not going to do that. We're going to use a function that they have, global dot. Oh, and see, this is the cool thing about using VS Code. They pulled sort of all of the documentation and add it to the telesense already. So it's a lot simpler to code. R, and the variable that you're going to pass is the name that you used from the outside. Yes. So it's pulling from the global script. It's pulling that one, and it's pulling the value of a variable there. And we're going to pull for library zone. Oh, and now I know what they call these uh, things. These are tables. They call it tables. So we're going to get a table. You cannot get it as a variable because it's not a variable. It's a table for them. Card zone. You know what? I should have named it card zones because it's an array. So S. I'm gonna do the same for this one. Control Alt S. It's not their typical Command S. It seems to save too if I press Control Alt S. That's cool. All right. So first things first is, so we now have the references for those zones. We now have to pick up the actual values or the actual references of the cards or decks or components that are inside those zones. So first thing is, well, actually more of like get the actual object of those zones. We just have the value, the IDs at the moment, the GUIDs. So function on load, and cool, apparently it has a state thing there. So we have the deck zone, which is coming from the library, and we're gonna do that. We're gonna get object from GUID, and What is the GUID to use? We already got it as the variable that was from the outside, so that's what we're going to pass. And now we have the deck zone itself. We're going to also get the discard zone. Same thing, but it's using the value from the discard. And now we're going to actually pull the card zones. And to do that, we have to make a card zone. By the way, variables in Lua, so these are variables. You set them either on the outside or here. If you just set it like this, the whole script, any other function can see it. If you set it, if you want it to be only local, meaning inside the function, you have to say local. So by default, it's always sort of global to the script. We're going to set up a table. Now we're going to loop. So it's going to be the first sort of coding structure that you guys need to learn. So if we're looping, and so we're looping through the different card zones IDs. So it's the GUID itself, in, and then we have a sort of helper function called iPairs. And we're looping through the card zones, right? Do oops, and then end. So that's how the syntax for loop. And we have a function to insert values into a table. So table.insert and into card zones. Now we're going to get the actual object of that ID so that we can use that in the card zone. So we're going to use again get object from ID, but this time around we're passing the looping GUID. Okay. Now, oops. Bad argument. Huh? Card zones. So let's just cut this out first. Maybe and then save. Card zones. What am I not seeing? Ah, there we go. Syntax. My variable name is not the same. And technically, sure. Save. So there. So now it works. Since we did use in here I is the index, so you'll start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then GUID is sort of the value of the one inside the table. So it's actually going to get each one and then pull the actual physical reference of that and then insert it into card zones. Since we're not using I, we can actually tell Lua not to use it and just put it as underscore. Okay. So how's the chat so far? The problem is when I'm in Tabletop Simulator, I don't see the stream. So no one's on the stream. That's totally fine. It's a Saturday, and again, this is just for people who might be interested later on. That yeah, if you guys want to learn how to code in Tabletop Simulator, because I was gonna code my game anyway, so might as well share it with you guys. All right, cool. So now we have. So if we look at the syntax for our button, it says we wanna trigger a function called reset game, and so we're gonna now implement that function reset game, and Alrighty. So, um, what do we want to do first? Uh, Hang on. Okay. So, since we're restarting this, like the best way to I feel to do it is you're gonna sort of assume. I know there's a um, sort of like a reset syntax for decks in the game, but again, because of how things work, some cards might not be related to that same deck anymore because it was reshuffled, it was empty, and so forth. So this is not necessarily perfect, but if I um, draw cards, uh, my thought process is I'm gonna discard those. I'm gonna force everybody. So we're sort of making a restart, allowing the game to be able to restart. So I'm forcing everybody's cards, hands to be thrown to the discard pile so that we can sort of flip it into the library and then we can pull the library into itself, right? So to do that, okay, um, we're gonna be looping same thing to all of the players in the game, and we're gonna go I pairs again. They now have an object called player, and then get players. Sorry. Not get play. Wonder why it doesn't see. Maybe I'm using an old syntax. Okay, and then so now that we have a player, we're gonna loop through their hand. So um, card in I pairs player. So we're looking at the player itself. Get and objects. Two, and we're gonna be throwing. Basically, take the card from the hand. So card, cut, set position, and we're gonna the position in Tabletop Simulator is 3D. So it's a set or a table with three numbers X, Y, and then Z. So, but we know where we want to put it because we know where to send it. So you can actually just refer to the discard zone and get position there, and that's it. That's going to throw cards into the discard pile. So we're going to save that and we're going to see how that looks. So I can click this now. Do I have a. So it resets. So let me just draw five. And I'm going to press rebuild. And nothing happens. Why? Why is nothing happening? Because I'm talking about restarting. There we go. There. So you can see that I lost all of my cards and they went into our discard pile. So cool. Let me do that again. Five cards. Okay. So I press restart and they all disappear. Is sent to the discard pile. Awesome. So we have our hand. So that's going to go through every player. And if they have anything on their hand, it's going to be thrown to the discard pile. Um, Next is we're going to um, yeah, we're gonna take the cards here and then send it also to the discard pile, right? Um, so so now we have to iterate through card zones, not because we're basically going through each one and then we're gonna check what object is there. So a lot of it, it's kind of like this in terms of logic. So we have a card, uh, we have a zone, and I pairs card zones, two, and. I can end my loop right away. Just makes it simpler for me to think of what's there. Um, okay, so we're gonna try something a little bit different. So we have the zone. So now we're gonna check if there is a card in that zone. So to do that, you're gonna if, and it's kind of weird how they do this. So you're gonna go get objects, right? And to sort of get the number value of this, put a pound sign, a hashtag in front. It is shorter because it's not a function, but I just am surprised like how I guess they thought it's such a common thing to ask, so they put it on their code. So if the length of the hashtag length, the length of the zone get objects is greater than zero, so that means there's something there in that zone. So we're gonna get that object. So now we need that local. We're gonna say card equals zone get objects, and it's not gonna be zero. Remember, it's gonna be one because that's the first element. You do know that there's an element there, and we're gonna have the card. Um, well, we're gonna ask. How do I ask the card itself to flip? Maybe can it flip on its own? Hmm. How do you flip? Well, one way is actually you're gonna make the zone take the object and flip it. So we're gonna say zone take object and um, flip it to true. So it's just gonna take the whatever is there and then flip. Now we're gonna move the card to the discard pile. So same idea as this one. And since it's not gonna be as many, you can actually even try set position smooth. What it does is it animates it going there. And so let's save that and let's see how that looks. So let's have 5 cards and let's press reset. There you go. So it pulls all of that, puts them there, and great. So now is we're going to take our discard and um, flip it, and put it on our deck. Yes. Okay. So we're gonna our discard zone. We don't have the object yet. The deck that's there. So we're gonna again. We do have the zone anyway. So discard zone, and we're gonna take object, and as I've shown earlier, we're gonna flip it. True. And just to play safe, I know it will have cards in there, but I I often, just for best practice, for some weird reason, if it just doesn't have that, so we wanna be sure. So let's do a get objects first. If it's greater than zero, then we're gonna execute um, these lines of code. It's more likely gonna have that anyway, but I just don't want it to make a reference on to break the game because it's trying to make a reference on something that's not there. So we do have that. We know we can then get the deck. So you'll notice that. Um, oh, hang on. How do I get the ah? So it's not. Hmm. So how do you flip the whole discard? Let me just double check how I flip it. Ah, okay. That's how you flip it. If it's the whole thing. Gotcha. Okay, gotcha. Hang on. All right. So we don't do it this way. In fact, you're gonna be because when you do get objects, unlike take object, it's actually just taking one card from that zone. If it's a get objects, the whole deck is an object in the game. Like it's combined. That's why it's grouped, right? So you start out with get objects. So in order for us to get the discard, let's just local net discard equals. So you're gonna from the discard zone grab the first element, and now we know that's the deck, right? So that one we can flip, and we're gonna set position smooth, and we're gonna put it on. Now we do know the deck zone get position. All right, save. Here we go. So let's draw 5 cards, and let's restart. Okay, so what happened here? This is running straight, and from how I see it, it probably um, because the game itself is actually not really like a linear game. It's actually event driven, and it's everything is running sort of in a frame basis. So what happened here is that it probably ran this code even before I was able to set the cards into that zone. Okay, makes sense. So in order for us to sort of catch that, and sort of we kind of need to do some waiting. Um, and so to do that is you can do wait and then frames. And the first proper part is actually a function. So you're going to do an anonymous function. Let's just set that down here. And there. Okay. So we have an anonymous function. We're going to move this in here. And this one is going to be the amount of frames. So let's say we wanted to wait a little bit long, so you can do 60 frames or maybe 120 frames. I don't know. Because it's frames, it's such an odd number. I wish it was just straight up a second. but it says frames. So, okay. All right. So it says wait frames. So we're going to save that and let's see if this is better. So let's draw 5 cards and restart. So it's waiting, and then there you go. It's able to flip it because it was able to then wait for all of the cards to be there first, and then a couple of seconds come in for frames, then it flips it. All right. So we're almost there. The problem is that this, while it's good, is very dangerous because that means that while in the game somebody presses reset, we just lose everything, right? So we want to disable reset as much as we could while the game is running. So we're gonna go back to the physical space of the game, and we're gonna add maybe like some sort of switch of of sorts. And I don't know if there's a better way to do this, but this is just kind of how I did it. So we're gonna try. So we're gonna add maybe another component, and let's say we're just gonna use the black piece instead. Okay. So we're going to drop a black piece there, and we're going to add a new zone. Let's make that zone a little bit bigger. Sure. Okay, that's fine. Right. And again, remember when you physically change the game, you have to override and save. Okay. So we have a zone here, and let's go and copy that zone's ID. We're going to go back to our code. Again, best bet is to um, so we're gonna name that as, hang on. Let's put a lock button and that's fine. So now we have to save again because I changed it physically. Where did my, oh, um, no, weird. Did we lose code? Yes, we did. Fortunately, we're in VS Code. And save on that. We're gonna override. Why did we lose this thing? Override. Weird. So I'm just gonna save. Um, save. Let me just delete this. I'm rebuilding it anyway, so that way we're only seeing one. Maybe I made a mistake. Override, just to be sure. Let's go ahead and load that. Okay. All right. So now let's get that component thing again. So components. Let's oops. One of the marbles. Okay. All right. And we're going to put scripting zone around that space. And we're going to save again. Override. Yes. Let's just make sure. Okay. So copy that zone. So, so what we're gonna do next is we're going to add some sort of locking mechanism. Uh, that way, um, once we hit the restart, there's a sort of physical thing we have to do in order for us to enable the restart button again. So what I'm just doing is that I have a pebble here inside the zone there, and we're going to uh, we're going to move it away from that zone. So if that zone is empty, then we're gonna say you can't hit the restart. So let's go and go into our library button, save. I'm so happy I'm using VS Code. It That is scary. It like just overwrites the files. Fortunately, VS Code has like a sense of changes, and it's able to sort of cache your code. So we're gonna add here the lock zone. We're gonna pull that in, and that's a variable though. It's just single space. All right. It's also lock zone equals get object from lock zone. All right. So we're now going to check if the so when I go and check lock zone dot get objects, if there's something there, so it's going to be more than zero, then I'm going to allow to do all of this. So I'm going to put an and on the if there, and then the idea now is to take whatever is there, and then set position um, where's the code for okay, so we're gonna get the position. Let's do that after all of this, or no, maybe you should do it before. We should do it before. So let's make it simpler. So let's localize a variable local lock equals the first object in the lock zone, and we'll also want the position of that lock zone. So lock get position. Okay. Right. So now we're gonna move it to the right a couple of steps. That way, it's no longer in that zone, and we can't press restart again. So lock set position, and we're just gonna pause it right away. It's no longer this syntax. I don't know why it's doing that. It requires a table, so you need those curly braces. So as I mentioned before, position is x, y, and z. So the first one is x, and we just want to move it this way. So it's x, and then the first entry plus maybe 5, and then for the rest, it's the same. So same y, and then of course we don't want it to fly up. Position 3. Okay, let's try that. Where's did I not end that? End expect. Ah, so sorry. There's no do for. There you go. All right. Okay. So we're going to draw 5 cards. Actually, hang on a little bit. Um, we want that after it flips and goes there, and that's animated. So we're gonna be maybe we're just gonna do it straight. Okay. So we want to talk to our deck. Apparently, we haven't picked up our deck. So local deck equals this card don't get objects one, and then deck not deal, and then 5. So that way it flips, and then we get to deal with it. If it doesn't work, we're gonna have to stack a weight again inside. So we'll see. Uh, Hang on, save. All right. So let's restart. Goes there, waits a bit, flips, and there we go. Oops. And now ends our problem. Ah, okay. There we go. So cool. It does deal, but now I also want to deal cards here in my zone. And there are 7 spaces, but actually it's only the middle 5 that I want to deal cards into. So after we deal 5 cards from the top, now we're gonna loop through uh, our card zones. Yes. So we do have them already, like that. So underneath here, we're gonna do, but this time around, I need I because I need the 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 positions. I also need the number of cards. So I think size. This is the size. So hashtag card zones that get objects. Right. So I want to deal from the deck a card. Um, where did I put it? Oh, yeah. Okay, there you go. Okay. So we're done with the dealing of cards. Now we're gonna um, put cards on the zone. So if so we're gonna check if it's not the first one, and so if I and the not equal in Lua is tilde equals 1, and I not equal. Why did it do that? Not equal. Sorry, small n. Not equal to size. Then if it's not the first or the last, um, you can take a card from the deck, take object. So again, as I mentioned before, when you take from an object from a group, it's just gonna take one, and so we're gonna flip. So it's from the deck, so we want it to flip. So flip that to true, and we're looping through the zones, right? So since we're skipping the first one, it's not going to deal one there. It's going to move to the next one. So whatever zone is, we're going to set the position equal to the zone dot get the current zone in the loop's position. All right, save that. And now we're going to, oops, I think save. There we go. All right, so we're going to press restart. Drags everything, flips. What's the error? Wow, it's so small. It's chunk attempt to call nil. Attempt to call a nil so sorry. So sorry. What a get position. Why did I do get object thing? All right. So apparently the error also shows up in VS Code, and that means it's going to be easier for us to um, see the error there. So pulls everything, flips, attempt to call nil val. What do you mean? But I do have the deck there. Um, oh, okay, that's interesting. Card zone. So sorry. We don't do get objects anymore. Card zones is already our list. Save. And let's draw 5 cards. Restart. Okay. There we have it. So it's able, so now that's going to deal 5 for everyone who's in play, and also deal 5 cards for us. So the way my game works is I take a card and I'll put it on the right side, and that means I'm running the right action. The in this case the lock, which is in the game it's actually quarantine, and I'm gonna pull a card from the other left. So you can see that it can divide now the the row into 2 parts, straight in the middle. So I'm gonna, let's say, get this card because I want to do the hiring, and I just execute that. So what I want to happen next though is that I can press this button and it will sort of sort it back like that. That's my that's my dream. Okay. Oh, and by the way, notice now that if I press restart, nothing happens. It's because this thing needs to be in its special place. And I wasn't able, since it was no longer in the zone, um, it wasn't in any of the zones. So we can actually still try to call a deck reset just to be sure. So after we've taken the cards, let's do a deck reset. Just in case we have stuff like that lying around. Eh, put it everywhere. Save, oops, control access. Okay. Okay, so we have that, and actually the game is supposed to look like this, not that. So we can now save the game that the way it was originally intended. So it's supposed to really look like that. So we're good with um, uh, restart. So again, if I restart, it pulls everything in, gives me a deal, moves this. I can't press restart anymore. I mean, I can press it, but it doesn't do anything. But if I place it on the right spot, restart's gonna work again. Okay? It's like a secret button, but it's you can see it on the screen. It's like just a safety lock, right? Okay. So now we're going to manage the sort. Um, and I realized rebuild is such a it's just gonna flip the cards. So people will know how to do that anyway, but it's just easier because once what I want to do is that when you say rebuild, it's gonna flip and shuffle the deck. So it's because when the deck runs out, you just want to be able to quickly do that, and that's kind of why I had one in a rebuild. So let's deal with the more difficult one first, which is sort. All right, here we go. So for sorting, um, that's for action row, and we want to do sort actions. So we can go and look at um, our code here already, and we can copy these, right? Because it's going to be the same thing we want to do for our action row. Very similar. At least we'll also be dealing with the same card zones and whatnot. Don't have to deal with the deck and the lock zone here, but sure, just copy paste it. You never know. So um, the function that we need is sort actions. So let's go and declare function sort actions. And oh, okay, so you just type in. Got it. All right. So if hashtag deck zone get objects, why do we need the deck zone? I don't need the deck zone. Yeah, I don't need the deck zone. Sorry. So we're going to basically take the cards from all seven positions. If there's a card there, we're going to sort of put it in a temporary space. We're going to deal it back to the second to the sixth position, and that's still going to center them out. That's pretty much the logic. So we're going to make a table that has cards, and we're going to loop through the zones again. We can probably copy our zone loop. Here's our zone loop. This one. Yeah. Just copy that. And it's kind of the same thing we're doing, although we don't need I. We're going to check if that zone, if that zone, so that zone has if objects greater than 0. So that means there's a card there. If there's a card there, we want to take that card and put it in has cards as a temporary sort of bucket. So table, not insert, into has cards, zone.get objects, and our first card. Oops, not our. So we're just checking if there's a card there, take it, and put it in a virtual list. It's not really physically taking it in. And now we're gonna need that same loop as last time. And yeah, the only difference is we're gonna be that's not that. we're dealing with has cards, right? And we're going to take the card and set its position to, and we do have card zones, right? And we know already that's there from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and, to 7. So the idea that I had was I'm gonna take the cards from there, and I'm assuming it's basically just 5 cards that's left. They're just sort of scattered a bit, slightly, and so I want to move them to uh, the the since it's gonna be 5 cards, then I want it to be starting from 2 and just distribute from 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're just gonna take the card zones because we already have that list of card zones and cheat a bit and just add because pass cards is counting from 1 to 5, but I want to put it on 2 to 6. So just add 1 to that and get the position. So we're just sort of resetting them into to the target space. Uh, go to error. Sorry, no. There you go. Okay. Right. So restart should work still. We get our cards. And I think I should be delaying that shuffle because it might deal the same cards. So maybe something you can improve. All right. So now let's do game mechanics. But yeah, weird. Tabletop Simulator is weird at times. All right. So let's say if I play it here. Um, so that means I'm going to be doing some testing on the districts that are here. And now I have to pull a card from the other side. And let's say I want to do the same thing. This one is to get money, basically play this as a money card on my HQ. So now that it's like that, we want it to be sorted. So let's press sort, and there you go. It just moves them into space. So you can kind of mess things around like this, and huh, that is interesting. Because this is on the rightmost, which is no should work. Why are they there? Weird. What's going on? Card move to card zones that get position. I don't understand where the error is. Yeah, I know it's gonna probably mess up there. I guess we can. I guess it's animating, so maybe it's weird. So maybe it's picking up that it's so. So let's just remove smooth. It was nice that it was animated, but restart. And then we can see if we can mess it up like this. Huh. Okay, well, it kind of fixes it eventually. I don't understand why. Attempt to a nil value. So maybe I'm guessing there are no cards there. So might as well. We gotta check if so. We picked up the cards. I wonder what's happening. Is it because it still has a card there? We're just setting a position. Smooth. So let's just do a safety. I don't know why it's happened. What's happening? So we're just gonna do. We're gonna check if um is there a null check? Do check if null nil. Mm, okay, if it's equal to nil. So it's complaining about. I'm guessing it's complaining attempt to index a nil value. Huh. So card zones disappear. So let's see if that's really the case. Is not equal to nil. That's syntax. Nil. Then okay. So if card zones, and let's go ahead and also check this guy not equal to nil. Let's go move these around. All right, so it doesn't error anymore. It's good enough. Cool. So it's probably with that animation thing. Okay, so we're almost done. Basically, take the discard pile, shuffle it, and flip. That's fairly easy. Um, so same thing. We're gonna need these guys. Actually, all the way down here. It's very much what we need. Um, kind of like when we did the sword. Yeah. So same thing. It's, you can't copy paste. Copy paste. Okay. There we go. Okay, so here we have reset discard function, reset discard, and so I'm guessing we're going to take the object from the discard zone. So no problem. Discard equals discard zone dot get. Well, we might want to check first. So if hashtag discard zone dot get objects is greater than 0, so that means that there is something there. Then we can go ahead and take the discard, get objects, first one. That's because it's a group, it's always going to pick up the whole deck. And we're going to throw that to the disk. We're going to discard shuffle, and then discard dot tip, and then discard dot set position, and gonna just set it into the deck zone dot get position. All right. So build. There you go. Put this all the way down there. We build. Um, let's draw some cards. And let's. Okay. So if I press restart, there you go. So there you have it. That's my game, and that's how you code in uh, Tabletop Simulator with the VS Code extension that I honestly believe it does help a lot because I kid you not, my eyes are really failing me and I cannot see anything in here. So when I play the game, and that's why I always play it top view, and I'm actually like this when I play. I just kind of move around this way just so I can code the stuff in. So that's a long coding session. Uh, so there you have it. Oh, sorry, Um, I didn't go back into the stream to see. So Nick, you asked. So number one, which game is this? This is Epidemic, the card game. It's a co-op game about saving people from an epidemic. Uh, and then your next question, what IDE was I using? And it links to TPS, yes. So um, it's a Visual Studio Code, and you install the plugin and you run your your tabletop simulator environment, and um, you have mainly two commands. Control Alt L loads the codes that are running inside tabletop simulator. Control Alt S saves it and then triggers the save in tabletop simulator. So that's pretty cool because once you've finished all of the sort of the mapping of the spaces, then you can easily just stay in VS Code because you already happy with the components. Uh, Hi Vic, thanks for dropping by. So there you guys have it. I hope that was something interesting for you guys, especially for the designers. Hopefully, you guys learned something there a little bit, and it helps you in your prototyping process. Do comment below. What else would you like to see, and else would you like to learn, and other things that I have developed, and you guys might be interested in, like how I do things. Then just feel free to uh, comment. And if this is something that interests you, please do share, like, and subscribe. And until next time, thank you for watching. This is Ron of Variable Play. Until the next code design. Bye.